Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal. Mailbag. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. Welcome to another Mailbag episode of Nothing Personal. Thank you again for all the questions, responding to my tweets at David P. Samson on X, finding me on Instagram and TikTok. We have Nothing Personal Instagram, nothingpersonal.mpds, at David P. Samson is Instagram as well. David Samson Podcast. You can get merch. You can look into the document of all of our picks of the day, all of the movies we review, every episode, every word of the day, every wait to see, and then email me. I check out just about every email I get, as many as I can. I respond to some, and then some make it into the show under So You Want to Talk to Samson, which is a segment we do de temps en temps. Je peux parler français parce que les Jeux Olympiques, n'est-ce pas? No? All right. Sometimes we do So You Want to Talk to Samson. Other times we do mailbag episodes. That's what this is. And we got a lot of interesting topics today, so I want to get started. None of them are hi, David, or hello, David. That's strange that we, two today are. Okay, here we go. Are the values that the networks and streamers are paying the leagues sustainable? Do they think viewers will continue to pay subscription fees and watch a constant stream of ads? I love this. Thank you. I don't know how old you are. I think going forward, Coca, although I'm not allowed to ask that, but this is not a job interview. I'm always curious what age people are when they ask certain questions. I've told you my funny story about job interviews in 2004 when people would say, I've been a Marlins fan my whole life. Really? You're way older than 11. They're making that up. Don't make stuff up in your job interviews. Don't make stuff up on your resume because we can check it. Don't use AI to write your college essays. They're checking it. This brought to you by your college admissions office. Streaming. Fascinating concept. The Sporting Class is the show that Pablo Torre hosts that John Skipper, Pablo, and I do as often as possible. We've talked about streaming. I've talked about it, Nothing Personal. The concept of streaming, the consolidation we can expect, the way things have changed in that you've got what used to be companies that deliver toilet paper or deliver CDs to you are now delivering content to you. Original content, not original content. Sometimes they pay production companies to make content. Everyone realizes that having live sports is awesome. That's why rights fees continue to go up. Because live sports, it used to be called it was, how do we describe it in the old days? VCR proof. Now, of course, there are people who used to tape games when they couldn't watch them live, and they would just tell people at dinner, don't talk about it. It wasn't as though they had to stay off their phones. There were no phones. But the majority of people watch sports. It's called appointment viewing. It also used to be that TV shows were appointment viewing when they'd be released 1 week at a time on one of the 3-4 major networks once Fox started. And you knew Sunday at 8, you were going to see a Simpsons episode, let's say. Or Tuesday at 8, Happy Days. Or Saturday at 8, The Love Boat. And that was it. Now, of course, you can watch whatever show you want. And the commercials have changed. Tuesday night, CSI, streaming the next day on Paramount Plus. Or streaming the next day on Hulu, or streaming now, streaming later. Why are streaming networks doing business with you? Let's think about that for a minute. Why is Amazon doing business with you? You know the answer. They want you to be an Amazon Prime member. They want you to do everything with Amazon. They want you to buy books. They want you to buy toilet paper. They want you to buy toothpaste. They want you to watch movies. They want you to watch TV shows. And now, of course, they want you to be on their channel when it comes to sports. Started with the little local deal with the Yankees. Everyone complaining, outrageous. We have to go to Amazon to watch Yankee games. Sometimes they're on ESPN. This is no joke, Coca. This happened live right now. I just got an alert from Amazon. They're everywhere. The reason why networks have their own streaming services, with the exception of Fox. The Murdoch family said, we're not going to spend billions of dollars trying to develop a streaming network that's going to lose money hand over fist and depress shareholder value. We're going to let everybody else do it. We'll see where things sit. Once there's settling, it's like not wanting to move into a brand new house, or it's like when you buy a brand new car, but you can't really rev it into the red until the engine's broken in. Fox said, we're going to let everybody else break it in. It's like breaking in your glove in baseball. It's not as much fun that Major League clubhouses have a machine that breaks in your glove. I used to enjoy very much putting a ball in my glove, tying rope around it, and sleeping on it. It was better than when there was a tooth under my pillow, having a glove under your mattress. Of course, now we have no time for such trivial pursuits. And so we take our little pie-shaped game pieces and we develop machines to make things come at us faster, easier, better, more efficiently, and generally more expensive. Of course, when streaming first started, it was pitched to you as way cheaper than cable. Everybody cut your cords. That was a pretty famous saying back in the day. People still talk about it, but not as much. Cutting the cord was literally cutting the cord. I keep this in my front desk drawer where I record this. It's the scissors. If you hear that, because you're not watching this live on the YouTube channel or on DraftKings Network, maybe you're just listening. That's my scissors, cutting the cord. Along with my lacrosse ball, which I put under my foot when I get cramps from doing shows every single day, which I love to do. And thank you so much for your time. But then you realize that the Yankees on Amazon was just the start. Then Amazon did the impossible. They did a deal with the NFL. There were playoff games. Now Amazon has a deal with the NBA. Do you think it will be long before there will be a deal with other major sports? And I don't mean Netflix doing a deal to show a round of golf with two celebrities, or a tennis match, or some sort of one-off boxing match with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. I'm talking about leagues, games, regular season, playoffs. It's music to the ears and the wallets of team owners, which is one of the reasons valuations have gone up so much. There's an old saying in economics: we need competition. We need bidders. That's what people selling things want. Now for rights, it's not just CBS, NBC, and ABC, and then Fox joined the party. Well, then you had Warner Brothers Discovery. How about Disney, ESPN? They also own ABC. What about when games are on ABC and ESPN all at the same time? Or sometimes they're just on the Deuce. These are all different ways of the same thing happening. It is networks trying to maximize the revenue they get from subscription. Subscription revenue is everything. And do you think that's new? I joke around all the time about Columbia Records. That was a subscription model. Sign up, get 3 free movies, 3 free CDs, 3 free tapes, whatever it was. But if you don't cancel, we're going to keep sending you stuff every month. It's like the cosmetic scheme, the pyramid scheme, except it's right in front of your eyes, your face and your nose. You know what's happening. If you want to watch this, you will get that. Don't worry if you don't want Peacock. No problem. You just won't get certain things. People thought John Skipper was a lunatic when he said the Super Bowl could be on a streaming service. You still think so today? People thought he was even crazier when he said it couldn't even be a pay-per-view event. You think that's still crazy? I do. Streaming service, not so much. What about when you would watch shows on ABC? We'll be back after this. You'd watch the opening title, commercial. There'd be a 7-minute block, like block A, commercial, about halfway through a half-hour show. Before you know it, you realized you watched a 60-minute show, but then you realized, do you remember where you were? I do. I was watching something on I was watching an old TV show called MASH. I don't remember, maybe on Hulu or something. And every episode was 22 minutes. I was like, what happened to the other 8? And then I realized 60-minute shows are actually 42 minutes. Why? Commercials. It was normal. You'd watch them. You'd be excited about them. You'd go to the bathroom. You'd get food. You'd change the channel. Do you remember when commercials used to be, let's try to make it channel changing proof, where it's such a good commercial that people aren't going to change the channels, which used to be a pain in the neck because you had to go to the TV and turn the dial. Then the remote happened and there was panic in the advertising industry. Who in God's name is going to watch commercials when they can flick up, flick down? And then you realize, wait a minute, every show's in a commercial at once. This stinks. Don't forget about that. Then you knew that with a streamer, you could pay more money to not get commercials. Brilliant. I will pay money so I can spend 42 minutes, not 60 minutes. But wait a minute, I can fast forward through commercials. Oh, crikeys. This is fast forward proof. Your show will begin and continue in 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Do you get angry, frustrated? They're paying the bills. These companies make money because you subscribe to it. They make more money because of advertising. That's how cable companies work. They make money from subscribers, subscription revenue. That means that people have cable. You have a monthly cable bill. Have you ever noticed there are tiers on your cable bill? The whole Comcast Diamond argument that we talked about a few weeks ago on Nothing Personal was all based on what tier the channel was going to be. Does that come with my cable? The basic package of $49.99 comes with the following 30 channels. Well, I'd really want this channel. Well, I'm glad you asked, because now that's going to be an extra $19.99 a month. But don't you worry, you get the fishing channel too. Those are the tiers. Funny enough, what's happening on streamers is they're beginning to show more commercials because people are fine with commercials, because they realize that commercials have been a part of their life since the beginning. So when you had a cable, you definitely paid subscription fees and watched ads. Now, you're calling it a constant stream of ads. I do take umbrage to that word constant. I'm not sure it's a constant stream. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that it's probably 18 out of 60 minutes. That's not that constant. That's under a third. Not too shabby. What would your life be like if you didn't have live sports and original content? What would you do? I guess we could go watch 1883 or Horizon to see what we'd do without TV. I guess we'd be shooting people, worried about food. You asked me, do I think viewers will continue to pay sub fees and watch a constant stream of ads? You're goddamn right I do. Of course. Will rights fees continue to go up? Well, let's see. I wish I had a piece of Hubba Bubba right now. Have you ever chewed Hubba Bubba? It's the one that had some fish eggs in it because that was gross and that happened once upon a time. And you can feel the sugar rotting through your teeth, but you can blow a bubble so big. I used to be able to get it, and I used to have amazing eyebrows. Hey, listen, when you're 65 inches, it happens. You start looking at other qualities. And I could get a bubble that would burst, and I'd get gum in my eyebrows. When it's going really well for you, it's on the forehead. Bubbles burst, except rights fees, except valuations of sports teams, except maximum salaries paid to players in leagues. Those bubbles, I think it'll cover your entire head. Now that the NBA has their TV deals in place, do you believe the owners are okay with the near 50-50 split? Or will they lock out to seek a bigger piece of the pie? I don't think you realize how important that question is. It is a question that exists in just about every business where there's management and union. It's a question about how much do you pay your workers as part of a collective bargaining agreement? How much do you need to pay them in order to get your customers to buy that which you are selling? Because generally, management has a very simple approach. And the approach is that we are going to charge as much money as we possibly can and pay as little money as we possibly can to make that which we are selling to you. That seems reasonable. The NBA looks at its salary cap, it looks at its collective bargaining agreement, it looks at the 76 to 77 billion of new media rights deals that they have for the next 11 years. Then they look at some of the players when their extensions are 40, 50, 60, and now could get into $70 million a year. And the owners are despondent. But let me explain why there's nothing the owners can do and why that despondency tends to go away relatively quickly. When owners sit around in a meeting or sit around talking about their other businesses or talk to each other on the phone or at games, they're talking about anything other than their team's record. It is a funny thing. When owners get together, they're not saying, hey, we're 20 games over 500. How do you feel being 500? Hey, we got the number 2 seed right now. You stink. You got the 7 seed. You're in the play-in tournament. No, they don't discuss it that way. They talk about business practices. They talk about their lives, lifestyles of the owners. One of the things that comes up is labor. Almost every time owners talk, they're talking about different things. They're seeing different trends they're seeing in their other businesses, different things they can bring from their business into the sports business. Looking for best practices, looking for ways to cut labor costs. Every business is trying to cut or reallocate labor costs. Not today, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Every day in the past, every day in the future. Totally common, totally normal. So your question is not, are the owners okay with the 50-50 split? Because no, they'd love 51-49. They'd love 60-40. They'd love 70-30. If they could do 90-10, trust me, they would. If they could do 99-1, they would. If they could match the UFC, which I think is somewhere around 80-20, they would. But they also understand that because of the current collective bargaining agreement, which is a result of all previous collective bargaining agreements, because of the current state of the union, there is no scenario where they can be as greedy as they want to be. The good news for owners is that there's no scenario under which players can be as greedy as they want to be because it doesn't play well. It's why during CBA negotiations, so often it's a war of PR, which of course to me has always been strange. I understand that we want people to like us in management, but they're not going to. People generally like players. What players are told by their heads of union is don't be chazers. Don't be greedy. Don't be out there being Latrell Sprewell. And I don't mean hitting your coach. I mean complaining you don't get enough money to support your kids. Because the minimum of you are making $700,000, $1 million. And the fan base has an average salary of $40,000 per household. So do yourself a favor and do not do anything publicly. But of course, that's what everyone does because we're trying to curry favor. The problem is when ignoring the PR, my suggestion is that you focus on what is a going concern versus what is not. All of the strikes and lockouts that you've seen over the years in baseball, there have been strikes in basketball, lockouts in football. It's all when there was great concern over going concern. Now, you're asking, what do I mean by that? I mean, when owners looked at their assets and said, we have a problem. Our cost of goods is way too high. We're going out of business. We can't operate at a profit. We're running out of cash. We have no way to access cash because the capital markets are so tight, and our team is not rising in value, enabling us to borrow more money. But then teams started going up in value significantly, which opened up the capital markets to them, which led to rules on debt caps for teams. Because left to their own devices, owners would spend more on players because they would get more access to debt to cover their losses because they all want to win rings. So many of the rules instituted by leagues is to protect owners from themselves. Meanwhile, players see what's happening with values of the team going up. They see new media rights deals and they say to themselves, well, wait a minute, we want more. And then the owners say you're getting more. 50% of $2 is $1. 50% of $1 is 50 cents. You just went from 50 cents to $1. And they say you went from $1 to $2. And you say, we own the team. Go get your own team. It's the same thing that employers say to their employees. We love you. We appreciate you. But where are you when things go bad? You leave and go get a new job, and we're left holding the bag of equity worth zero. It's about risk. Without risk, you cannot be in line for reward. And don't give me the line that players take a risk because they've chosen to be a professional athlete and they may not make it. Everybody has that same risk in whatever line of work they choose. They go to school to be a lawyer or a doctor or a business person, or they go to trade school to be an electrician or a plumber or whatever they go train to be. It does not guarantee that there will be a job. It doesn't guarantee that there will be plentiful cash flow in your family. We all take risks. We all take measured risks. There have always been expressions that rich get richer. It's easier for rich people to get richer than it is for poor people to get rich. Yes, it is. You will not see an NBA lockout over revenue split because owners aren't that stupid. What you will see is changes in collective bargaining agreements that are not revenue split related, but are money nonetheless. We spent more time negotiating CBA provisions that would make your eyes glaze over, and it would make you wish that you were in the most boring class you ever attended, where your eyelids are so heavy that there's nothing you can do, even a pencil in between them. ERISA, pension issues, benefits issues, things on the margin. But when you own and run a company, things on the margin matter because they add up. Have you ever heard the expression of someone trying to tell you, hey, we're trying to cut costs, and you always say, why would you fire me? I make 50 grand. Why don't you fire the head who makes $1 million? And the answer is the guy who makes $1 million brings in more money, does more money than 20 guys who make 50,000. So you cut 20 people who make 50,000, keep the guy who makes $1 million, you still cut $1 million, and your business is more streamlined and it's making more money. These are the harsh realities, but they're true. When you look at layoffs, it is the rare occasion when people at the top are laid off in order to hit a number that is required to satisfy stockholders and stakeholders. You know, the WNBA is a different situation, actually. They've got, in their mind, new revenue streams, a new TV deal, and they are making a ton of noise about wanting a different CBA, wanting a bigger piece of the pie. And there is a bigger piece to be had of a pie that is bigger, except that bigger pie, as you know, is made from a wad of ones and a $100 bill on the outside. It may look like a wad, but it's not. So you're not going to see a huge change in the WNBA, excuse me. They may opt out of their CBA this coming fall. My guess is they will. They only get 50% of incremental revenue. They likely want a higher percentage of total revenue, existing revenue. But they better be careful. The NBA, Major League Baseball, remember replacement players? Raise your hand if you remember replacement players. Certain teams had them. Certain teams wouldn't do it. Remember, the Orioles would not do replacement players because their owner at the time, Peter Angelos, was such a union guy, major employee guy, that he would not field a team of replacement players. People thought it was because of Cal Ripken. No, Peter Angelos was militant in that regard. May he rest. But the WNBA will quickly realize that if they play their hand too far, they will be replaced. And I know you don't want to hear that with all the excitement around Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all the leagues that are popping up. John Skipper's fantastic, unrivaled 3v3, all the momentum created by the amazing Olympic team, everything that goes on. But remember, the WNBA does not have the financial model that you think it does. I like when you all ask questions. I really do. Sometimes the answers are easy, sometimes difficult. Sometimes I have to think about them for a while. I like this one coming up because it means you're thinking a lot, whoever asked this. Does Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, does he see the TV deal by the NBA and make an audible and reach out to Warner Brothers Discovery and go for more money and more access? I love that question. Do you know that Major League Baseball, and you do know this, I don't know how I could possibly talk about it even more, but I'm gonna try. Of course, we look at the TV deals that other leagues do. If baseball had the ability to get a TV deal like basketball did, we would do it. They would do it. That's $1, Coca. They would do it. If baseball thought that opting out of a current deal, as a matter of fact, it's their partners who have the opportunity to opt out, not them. They're more concerned that ESPN will opt out of their deal, which they likely will in order to keep paying the same amount of money but get more assets. You've heard John Skipper talk about it on the Sporting Class. Here's the check we'll write. What do we get? Let's start negotiating that. The problem is when you are baseball, and we don't talk about this too publicly, the only thing that TV is bidding for, whether it's ESPN or TBS or any Amazon, anybody, the only thing they really care about is October. Now, there's been a huge push in the NBA to focus on regular season games. That's why Adam Silver did the load management issue. You got to play 65 games. That's why they pay attention to who sits, who doesn't. You've got to play in nationally televised games. Baseball does not have any rules like that. Baseball is a sport where they've always said to themselves, people come for the experience. They come for the stadium. They come for the game. They never know who's in the lineup. They're totally fine when the best players are playing. Are they disappointed? Maybe, but they know that's cost of doing business. Whereas in the NBA, when your guy doesn't play, you're like, what the heck? He's not hurt. Of course he's going to play. In Major League Baseball, it could be a rest day, an off day. The problem is the NBA's become like MLB, but even worse. And now it's become such an issue. They're trying to legislate against this confusion that the consumer could have vis-a-vis gate revenue. The thing about regular season baseball games is no matter what we do, God dang it, Coca, 4-8-69. The problem with baseball is that no matter what they do, it is really hard to make the regular season matter. So what they do is they try to fool you. The game at Rickwood, the Field of Dreams game, international games starting the season in Tokyo, Korea, showing when big moments are happening. MLB Network cuts in to a no-hitter. ESPN has the right to cut in. You sell those rights that make something special. When there's a chase for a home run record, Aaron Judge tries to hit 62 and get past Roger Maris. The reason that we do that, oh my God, I'm having a day here, Coca. The reason that they do that is that they are trying to add value to their partners. They're trying to make it so the money that they get when it comes time for renewal will increase. And let me put this in terms of your business and your life. What do you do during your review time at your company? If you're an employee, when it's your annual review, what do you do when you're given your raise or your bonus? What do? You are trying to show your boss that you provide incremental benefit to what they're paying you. You are worth more than you're being paid, which of course every employee better be worth more than they're being paid or you won't be an employee. However, you want to prove that you are worth more than you're being paid, and you want to prove that you need to be paid more because your worth is still going to be more than that number, and your employment, your company, your employer will still profit off you. When you have a sales team, a company that sells things, which I could argue every company does, when you've got a long-time customer, have you ever heard of what a boondoggle is? Boondoggle is what you do when you bring people to an all-star game or a World Series, and they're in the marketing department or the sales department of big companies, and they take some of their budget and give it to your sport or your team, and you bring them on trips, you introduce them to players, you let them shake hands with famous people, and you do it because when it comes time to renew, they say, wow, we've gotten such incremental great value that we are going to offer not just to renew, but renew at an increase. That is what is so important. When you run a company, is you want your customers to renew and you want them to renew at an increase. Sometimes it just comes in an email. We'd like to inform you that your subscription rate is going up from $9.99 to $10.99 due to the following 12 things. They've done the math. The number of people who will say, screw you and cancel is less than the number of people who will ignore it, delete the email, not delete the email because they have 50,000 emails in their inbox. And all of a sudden there's a $10.99 charge instead of a $9.99 charge. And they're like, whatever, it's $12 a year. I'm good. Even if they're poor, middle class, or rich. These are decisions that are made by companies all the time because they say to themselves, wait a minute, what I'm doing for them, I can get $10.99 for. Why do you think renovations are done? You go to an airport, now you can get power in your seats. Sometimes there's renovated hotels because they think that they can charge more for a renovated room than a non-renovated room. And they think that people who are paying what they were paying are going to stop coming because the carpet smells. So you invest money. It's called capital expenditures. You do it with your house. People who don't paint their house, keep their house clean, keep things fresh, the value of your house may go down. The whole purpose of putting in new appliances is you pay $1,000 for a refrigerator. I'm making up a number. It can be, you can pay $500, you can pay $5,000, but $1,000. But I have a new fridge. When I go to sell my house, they'll look at the new fridge and they will bid $1,500 more for the house than if I had that crappy refrigerator that barely worked and the light didn't work when you opened the door. Don't you do that same math all the time in your life? It's the expression I use, the juice being worth the squeeze. You have to calculate what the squeeze is and then know what the juice is and then say, wait a minute, that was way less than I thought. Wait a minute, my cup runneth over. That can allow for more investment. Why do you think there's all these renovations in stadiums, folks? The renovations are all done so they can charge more tickets for the same seat and the same product. But look, we've got a brand new looking place where we can charge more for the hot dogs and the popcorn. So it's a constant. You remember my view of this. It's been pretty clear. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. There is no staying the same. That goes for your show. It goes for your business. It goes for your personal life. It goes for everything. Either it's getting better or it's getting worse. The difference is I'm trying to understand what to do to stem the tide should you wish to do so. Rob Manfred has no ability at the moment to opt out. He has no ability to try to get more money, but he's trying as hard as he can for when the next round of deals come. By the way, side note, MLB Network was started as fake competition for rights deals. Hey, you don't want to pay us ESPN? No problem. We'll put it on the network. Owners, when MLB Network was conceived, were like, well, we don't want the playoff package. We want cash. And Bob Bowman so correctly said, guys, trust me, you're going to want MLB Network. Trust me. He was right. Hi, David. Hi, how are you? I value loyalty. Good. You should. As president of a company, I have an employee that is loyal to the company, but gets in fights with the company's shareholders. If you knew the employee is loyal, but had to go, would you rip it off like a Band-Aid or give the person a heads up for a soft landing? Love the show. I really like that question. Thank you. I love that you value loyalty. I do too. We had very little turnover in our front office except for our manager, but we did not have a lot of turnover. I very much enjoyed loyalty because I'm not of the belief that when someone is loyal to you, it means they're not going to perform for you. I'm not of the belief that if someone is comfortable, they're going to not perform. I do believe in fear, but not ruling by fear. The fear that I want my people to have is the fear of failure. I want my people to know that if they fail, that we all go. Because I wasn't the owner, I was the president. And nepotism be damned, if we failed, I had a problem. The loyalty that you're describing as president of a company, I had employees like this too. Some I was really close to, some not as close to. When I had a problem with an employee who I was very close to, I'm going to tell you the exact story. When Larry Beinfest was let go, I was very, as president of baseball operations, there's only a small percentage of this show who knows about that or who that is, but you were there from the beginning. I had tried very hard to make that not happen because I did not want Larry Beinfest to be let go. But a point came when I knew that there was nothing I could do because self-preservation takes over. And as much as I would fight for someone I'm loyal to, I recognize that the owner has the final decision always. And I would recognize that when running a company, results matter. And now I'm not talking about baseball results. I'm talking about your company where you've got shareholders and you've got an employee you love, but that employee is doing something that stops you from doing as well as you could in your job. What did I do when he got let go is I went into his office and I told him he just made the biggest mistake of his career. I slammed the door and I walked out. I did not do that in a very mature way. I think about that to this day. I remember it like it was yesterday, and it was, God, I think it was a decade ago, Larry. You have an obligation to your friends, to your family. A lot of people say that. They talk about their family and they talk about things that they do and say. I have a different view of that. When you're working, your obligation is to your boss, to your company. If your company is owned by an individual, it's to the individual. If your company is owned by shareholders, it's to the shareholders. You can't let a personal relationship get in the way of a professional duty. Forget the fact that you have a fiduciary duty as president of a company that has shareholders. Your fiduciary duty is to ensure that you are maximizing profit, you're maximizing value. You are paying attention to operating income, to your P&L, your balance sheet. I totally understand that if there's a friend of yours who has been loyal forever, that telling that person is going to lose his job if that person doesn't shape up is something that you're inclined to do. Here's the problem. At the end of the day, and this is when things get a little too real and sometimes Coca gets nervous, seeing too much under the kimono. Do you fight for someone else or do you fight for yourself? If you have to really choose, and people call it Sophie's choice. I don't want to call it that. I don't like when people use that word to describe something in business that was not business. But don't you think everybody participates in self-dealing? Don't you think everybody chooses themselves at the end of the day? Does that mean that it's right? I think so. Because can everybody be wrong? Are there certain people who, to their detriment, choose you over them? Good for them. But that's not a compliment in my mind. If you can tell your friend that your friend is in trouble, and you can do it in a way that you guarantee does not in any way impact your position, your job, your ability to do your job to the best of your ability, by all means, do it. Tell them. But here's my question for you to ponder. How do you know? Do you know there are things that you decide in life that it's okay to be wrong? It's not great if you estimate the temperature of your shower and you're wrong. Man, that was too hot, too cold. And you run in and run out. Man, I totally overestimated the amount of soda I could put into that cup. Spillage. That's okay. When you're driving around near a cliff and you estimate the turn wrong, that's a bigger deal than estimating the amount of foam on the top of your beer. Can we agree with that? So, if we agree with that, if you can tell me in your business that there is something as clear cut as spillage versus death, then act accordingly. My experience tells me in business that I have been unable ever to make that distinction. I have been unable, beyond a reasonable doubt, to use a legal criminal term, but beyond a reasonable doubt. You shouldn't really say that when it comes to non-criminal things. Beyond a preponderance of the evidence, I have been unable to discern exactly the relationship between me doing X and me doing Y. As president of a team, I used to make those decisions all the time. That was my job. We're going to do X. No, we're going to do Y. Give me choices, A, B, and C. I choose B. I choose it based on my experience. I choose it based on my knowledge. I choose it based on my expected outcome. I choose it using analytics. I choose it using all the information I have in front of me. And what does it mean truly at the end? Hell, if I know. Why do you think everyone wants to invent a damn time machine? Because they want to be Biff? No, they'd love to make sure that every one of the decisions they make is right, have an easier path through life personally and professionally. But it's a life full of potholes. It's a life full of uncertainty. It's a life full of calculated risk. It's a life full of throwing caution to the wind, but knowing that the wind won't bring you into a bed of nails. Ripping off the Band-Aid is something that I love doing. I will not be one hair at a time. Not my style. I'm way more direct. Don't let things fester, personally and professionally, much to the chagrin of many and to the loneliness of me. But I would rip it off like a Band-Aid. Let me know how it goes, if you don't mind. Hey, David, did your mom ever used to say haze for horses? I never really liked hearing that. Hey, what's shaking? Hey, what's up? Don't say hey, say hi. Ho, hey, ho, hey, ho. Hey, David, longtime Marlins fan and longtime listener of your show. I have a question that I think you'd be best suited to answer. Would you be able to explain how the Packers ownership works and elaborate on the revenue payments the NFL makes to the teams? Do other leagues do this? Thank you. Also, do you think you'll do a live show in Miami? I'm going to start there. I appreciate it. I am still despondent the fact that we have not gotten to St. Louis. It's outrageous. I mean, what more could happen? But the Nothing Personal Live with David Samson tour that we did, 7 stops. I loved every city, whether it was Pittsburgh, whether it was Chicago, New York. I loved them all. Philly, Atlanta, Boston. I was just happy being in front of fans. I was happy to do the show live in front of you. We're going to do more live shows. I can promise you that. I'd like to do a live show again. Pablo was a guest of mine in New York. Love to get Dan out there live, Le Batard. I think that would be fun if Le Batard were on the road. Maybe me, Le Batard, and Pablo doing something, or there's some combination of things that would be interesting to you. Maybe me, Pablo, and Dominique could go on the road. Anyway, yes is the answer. I feel like I'm on Love Actually when I say that. And yes is the answer when she was asked to marry him. Anyway, yes, we'll do a live show in Miami. All right, let's get back to the question. Wait, you're a Marlins fan and a longtime listener? I told people that existed. I was just speaking to my agent, Jerry Silbowitz at UTA, and I said, we are beloved in Miami and Montreal. So thank you. All right, let's talk about Packers. What you mean is when you love the Packers and you go online and you buy a share of stock in the Packers because they're a publicly traded company, a publicly owned company, and then you get this piece of paper that says you own one Class B share of the Green Bay Packers, and you say, hey, does that mean I get tickets? No. Does that mean I get merchandise? No. Does that mean I get discounts? What? Well, I'm sorry. What? When I just bought that ticket, that share of stock, what do I get again? Oh, you get a piece of paper. You get to go to a cocktail party and say, yes, sirree, I'm an owner of the Green Bay Packers. Wait, can I go on the field? No. Can I be credentialed? No. Can I please get a tour of the clubhouse? Absolutely. 1-800 Green Bay Tour. Feel free. You can sign up online at Packers.com. I don't know if you're aware of this, but being an owner of the Green Bay Packers, it's sort of like being an owner and owning shares of stock of Liberty and thinking that you have any say or any interest in what the Braves are doing. The Packers ownership is run publicly. Financials are disclosed because it's a publicly owned company. You can read the audit. You can read the footnotes. You can wrap your arms around the package of information you're given. And guess what? You will not be able to extrapolate. You may try, but you won't be able to. So every time the Packers release their financials, you get articles saying, look how big the NFL is. Look at how much money every team is making because the Packers had $60 million of operating income. Well, having been in public companies and having run companies that are private, I can assure you that the CFO is a very important job. And I can assure you that we can make the numbers what we want to make the numbers. I can't say we're not lying to you. We are not violating general accounting principles. We are not violating the law at all. But there are things you do when you are giving financial statements that can make it very difficult for anyone to truly understand what the heck is actually going on. So you want to know about national revenue, and you look at the Packers' national revenue, you multiply it by 32, and you say, look, that's what the industry revenue is. And I say no. Industry revenue is total revenue of the team times 32. National revenue plus all the local revenue of each team. We don't know the local revenue of any team but the Packers. And the Packers' local revenue, it's not based on demo. It's not based on broadcast size, DMA. The NFL gets national TV deals. It gets national sponsorship deals, much like the other sports, but MFL's broadcast revenue is all national. They take that money, let's say it's $32, and they distribute it $1 each. Let me say it a better way, $4,869. They get $32 of broadcast revenue. That is $1 owned by each of the 32 teams, but not all that money gets distributed. We did a whole show weeks ago about Jimmy Dole and how angry he is about the amount of money that gets distributed by the NBA from its national deals. We used to fight with baseball constantly over the amount of money they distributed because the commissioner's office would keep a bunch of it, both to run itself and then to keep for a strike, lockout, rainy day, or any sort of problem that may happen, like regional TV deals going into the crapper. So you cannot take the national money and then say that's what it is. So that math doesn't work. Do you remember when we did a segment, Coca, on the Packers when they were offering more shares and you had to pay $300? I know you remember that because you're telling me about it right now as we're talking. So you do remember it. Remember, you had no equity, no dividends, no ticket rights. You got to go to an annual shareholders meeting, which was simply where they get people together and they give you teas and crumpets. No voting rights. It's basically nothing. But it's a good talking point. Do other leagues do this? It's not about the leagues. It's about the team. The Braves have it. I just want to mention one more thing, if you don't mind. The desire you all have to see everybody's books because you believe that if you saw the books, you could have an aha gotcha moment and you would somehow be able to say, look, my team can spend more money on players. Look, my owner's getting rich off his team's operation and he should lower his ticket prices. and you so badly want to get inside the books, I would like you to change your focus if you don't mind. You're not going to ever see the books of these teams. It's not going to happen. And if you did see the books, you wouldn't be able to figure it out, not because you're not smart. You are smart, but because of the way the books are done. Therefore, as you're thinking about the Green Bay Packers, as you're thinking about your team and the love you have and the emotional connection, don't forget that we look at you, we say thank you, and then we say it's just business. Thank you so much for being in this mailbag episode. We'll do it again. This is nothing personal.